born in the land of riches, gold, oil, diamond bright. But our streets are stained with blood, but the youth fight for their rights. Protesting for a future, yet they're slaughtered in the night. While the leaders sit in silence, flying private jets in flight. They drive their bulletproof cars while we walk these streets. Say there's no money, but their jets fly with ease. Our children starve, but they're too blind to see. Muguland, why can't we be free? Muguland, Muguland. We're crying out for change, but they shoot us on the streets. Muguland, Muguland. We have all it takes to be great, but only corruption is great in the land. They say no money's left, but the rich keep getting fat. Their wrists shine with diamonds.
Episode 5, Kingmaker of Muguland, The Rise of Iyanla, by Dr. Ope Banwo. Before Bisola Eleniyan emerged as a force in Alaye City, there was Iyanla Eleniyan, a name whispered with reverence and fear throughout the city. While her husband, Chief Bisola Eleniyan, was the public face of political power, it was Iyanla who ruled the city from the shadows. Her dominion extended beyond the affluent neighborhoods of Kokoyi and Prince Charles Island into the very heart of Alaye City. Its markets, where the lifeblood of the city flowed through the hands of the market women she commanded. Iyanla's influence was rooted in her early life, growing up in the bustling markets of Alaye City. Born to a family of traders, she quickly rose through the ranks, becoming the undisputed leader of the market women, a position of immense power. The market women were the backbone of the city's economy, controlling the flow of goods, money, and information. And under Iyanla's leadership, they became a formidable force, one that even the most powerful politicians in Muguland dared not cross. It was said that Iyanla had eyes and ears in every corner of Alaye City. The market women were not just traders, they were her informants, her enforcers, and her loyal soldiers. With their support, she could sway elections, crush her enemies, and elevate those who were loyal to her. It was this network that gave her an unparalleled reach, extending her influence far beyond what anyone could have imagined. When Bisola Eleniyan came into the picture, Iyanla saw something in him, a spark of ambition, a hunger for power that reminded her of herself. She took him under her wing, grooming him not just as her protege, but as the heir to her vast, visible, and invisible empire. But Alaye City was not a city that easily accepted outsiders, and Bisola's rise was met with resistance from those who resented his presence.
Episode 6, The Kingmaker of Muguland, The Wrath of Iyanla. The first significant challenge to Bisola's legitimacy in Alaye City came from a faction of indigenes, men and women who had been born and bred in the Alaye City and saw themselves as the rightful heirs to Iyanla's favor. They viewed Bisola, who hailed from Yamoja City, in the far west of Muguland, as an outsider, an interloper who had no claim to the power that Iyanla wielded. Their resentment simmered just beneath the surface, manifesting in whispers of dissent and thinly veiled threats. But Iyanla was not a woman to be trifled with. She had built her empire through a combination of shrewdness, brutality, and an unyielding will. The market women, who owed their livelihoods to her, were her most loyal subjects. They were the ones who controlled the city's economy, and they were the ones who ensured that Iyanla's word was law. She called a meeting with the leaders of the market women, gathering them in a grand hall that overlooked the city she had shaped. The women arrived in their brightly colored IRO and buba, their faces etched with a mix of respect and apprehension. Iyanla stood at the head of the room, her presence commanding and regal. "My sisters," she began, her voice carrying the weight of authority, "Alaye City is our city. We have built it with our hands, and we have defended it with our strength. But there are those who would challenge our rule, who would seek to undermine the power we have fought so hard to secure. The women murmured in agreement, their eyes fixed on Iyanla. There are those, Iyanla continued, her voice growing colder, who believe that because Bisola was not born in Alaye City, he has no place here. They forget that I am the one who decides who belongs in this city, and I have chosen Bisola as my heir. One of the women, a respected leader among the market traders, stepped forward. Iyanla, we are with you, but the men are stirring trouble. They say we should not follow a man who is not one of us. Iyanla's eyes flashed with anger. The men, she spat, will do as they are told, or they will face the consequences. The room fell silent as Iyanla's words hung in the air like a guillotine. We built this city, she said, her voice steady and cold, and we will not let a few jealous men tear it down. Bisola is my chosen, and anyone who challenges him challenges me. With that, Iyanla turned to one of her lieutenants, a formidable woman named Alaye City, who controlled the largest market in Alaye City. Tinu, you know what needs to be done? Alaye City nodded grimly. Consider it done, Iyanla. The retribution that followed was swift and merciless. The market women under Alaye City's command mobilized like an army. They spread through the city, shutting down the stalls of those who dared to oppose Iyanla's will, seizing goods and delivering harsh warnings to anyone who spoke against Bisola. The streets of Alaye City buzzed with fear as the message became clear. Iyanla's rule was absolute, and Bisola was her chosen successor. But Iyanla wasn't finished. She knew that fear alone wouldn't be enough to secure Bisola's place in the city. She needed to show that he had the support of Alaye City's true power brokers, the market women. In a grand gesture, Iyanla organized a public event, a celebration in the heart of the city's largest market. Thousands of people gathered to see the spectacle, the air filled with the sounds of drumming, singing, and the bustling of traders. At the center of it all stood Iyanla and Bisola side by side. As the crowd swelled around them, Iyanla raised her hands, calling for silence. Alaye City, she called out, her voice carrying over the noise. This is my son, Bisola Eleniyan. He is not just an heir to the Eleniyan name, he is an heir to Alaye City itself. From this day forward, he is one of us. The crowd erupted in cheers, the sound reverberating through the market. The market women, led by Alaye City, chanted Bisola's name, their voices rising in unison. It was a declaration, a public anointing that left no room for doubt. Bisola was now a legitimate power in Alaye City. As the celebrations continued, Iyanla leaned in close to Bisola, her voice barely audible over the noise. Do you see now, Bisola? Power is not given. It is snatched by the brave and taken by the courageous. And when it is taken, it must be held with an iron grip. You have that grip now. Do not let it go. Bisola nodded, the weight of her words settling over him like a mantle. I won't forget, Iyanla. I'll make sure of it. She smiled, a rare expression that softened her otherwise hardened features. Good, because Alaye City is ours, and anyone who challenges us will face the full wrath of the market. As the night wore on, and the celebrations continued, Bisola felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that the road ahead would be dangerous, filled with enemies and obstacles, but with Iyanla and the market women by his side, he also knew that there was nothing they couldn't achieve together. Alaye City had tried to reject him, but he had been legitimized by the most powerful woman in the city. Now it was time to claim what was his, and he would do so with the full force of Iyanla Eleniyan's visible and invisible empire behind him. In the brutal world of Alaye City, power was everything, and Bisola Eleniyan was prepared to wield it with the same ruthlessness that had earned him his place at Iyanla's side.
Episode 7. The Kingmaker of Muguland, The Rise of Bisola Eleniyan, by Dr. Ope Banwo. Bisola Eleniyan had always known that the world of Alaye City was a jungle, where the strong devoured the weak and the cunning ruled over the unsuspecting. But it wasn't enough to merely survive in such an environment. To truly thrive, one had to demonstrate a capacity for ruthlessness that left no doubt as to who was in control. For Bisola, Proving himself as a worthy heir to Iyanla's empire required more than just loyalty. It required action, decisive and brutal when necessary. The first test came in the form of Alhaji Durojaye, a longtime ally of Chief Bisola Eleniyan, who had transitioned into an uneasy partnership with Iyanla after the chief's death. Durojaye was a wealthy businessman with extensive connections in the oil and gas sector, but his ambitions had always been curbed by his loyalty to the Eleniyan family. However, with Chief gone and Iyanla's attention seemingly focused on solidifying Bisola's position, Durojaye began to entertain thoughts of breaking free from the Eleniyan influence. What Durojaye didn't realize was that Iyanla had eyes and ears everywhere. She knew of his growing discontent and had been waiting for the right moment to address it. Bisola, sensing an opportunity to prove himself, volunteered to handle the situation personally. "Iyanla," Bisola had said during a late-night meeting in her study, "let me deal with Durojaye. He needs to understand that loyalty is not an option, it's a requirement." Iyanla studied him, her gaze as sharp as ever. "And what do you propose to do, Bisola?" Bisola smiled, a cold, calculated expression. "I'll remind him of the cost of betrayal, but I'll do it in a way that leaves no trace of our involvement." Over the next few days, Bisola set his plan into motion. He began by subtly planting the seeds of doubt within Durojaye's inner circle, using his network of informants to suggest that the businessman was planning to defect to a rival faction. The rumors spread like wildfire, eroding the trust Durojaye's allies had in him. Then, on a quiet evening, Bisola invited Durojaye to a private meeting in a luxurious but discreet location, a penthouse suite in one of Alaye City's most exclusive hotels. Durojaye arrived, eager to discuss what he believed was a lucrative business opportunity. As they sat down over drinks, Bisola leaned in, his voice smooth and reassuring. "Alhaji, you've been a valuable partner to our family. I know you're ambitious, and I respect that. But ambition must be tempered with loyalty." Durojaye, sensing the underlying threat, tried to maintain his composure. "Bisola, I have always been loyal to the Eleniyan family. My only concern is ensuring that my business continues to thrive." Bisola nodded, a slight smile playing on his lips. "I understand, Alhaji, but there's a problem. I've been hearing things that suggest you're not as committed to our partnership as you once were." Durojaye's eyes widened, fear creeping into his voice. "Bisola, I assure you those are just rumors. I would never betray your family." Bisola's smile disappeared, his expression hardening. "I hope for your sake that's true, because betrayal is something I and Iyanla Eleniyan cannot tolerate." With that, Bisola signaled to one of his men, who handed him a file. Bisola opened it, revealing documents that implicated Durojaye in a series of financial irregularities. Irregularities that could easily be turned over to the authorities, ruining him both financially and socially. Durojaye's face paled as he realized the depth of the trap Bisola had set for him. What do you want?" he stammered. Bisola closed the file and leaned back in his chair. "I want your complete and unconditional loyalty, Alhaji. From this moment on, you answer to me. Fail to do so, and these documents find their way to the authorities. Do we understand each other?" Durojaye, his hands trembling, nodded. "Yes, Bisola, I understand." "Good," Bisola said, standing up and extending his hand. "I'm glad we could clear this up." The handshake was brief, cold, and final. As Durojaye left the suite, Bisola knew that he had secured not just the man's loyalty, but also his fear, a far more potent tool in the world of Alaye City power plays. When Bisola reported back to Iyanla, she listened intently, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she simply nodded, a hint of approval in her eyes. "You've done well, Bisola," she said. Durojaye was becoming a problem. Now he's a tool you forged yourself. The second test came from within the ranks of the market women themselves. Ramoda Olorikunkun, a charismatic leader of one of the city's largest markets, had long been a staunch supporter of Iyanla. But as Bisola began to take on a more prominent role, Ramoda grew resentful. She believed that her years of service entitled her to more influence, more control. She began to sow discord among the market women, questioning Bisola's legitimacy and hinting that perhaps it was time for a change in leadership. Word of Ramota's discontent reached Bisola, who decided to handle the matter directly. Unlike Durojaye, Ramota Olorikunkun's power base was deeply rooted in the community, making a direct confrontation more dangerous. Bisola needed to be more subtle, more strategic. He started by quietly gathering information on Ramota, her weaknesses, her vulnerabilities. It didn't take long to find one. Ramota had a son, a young man who had recently fallen into bad company, associating with a gang of area boys involved in drug trafficking. It was the leverage Bisola needed. One afternoon, Bisola arranged a meeting with Madame Ramota in one of the markets, under the preteens of discussing business. As they walked through the bustling stalls, Bisola spoke calmly, his tone measured. "Madame Ramota, I've heard that you've been speaking out against me." Bisola began, not bothering with pleasantries. Ramota, taken aback by the directness of the accusation, quickly masked her surprise with a defiant expression. "Bisola, I've only spoken the truth. The market women deserve a leader who understands them, someone who was born here, who shares their struggles." Bisola stopped walking and turned to face her, his eyes cold. "And you think you're that leader?" Ramota met his gaze, her chin raised defiantly. "I've earned my place. I've served Iyanla for years. I've bled for these markets, and I don't intend to let an outsider take what belongs to us." Bisola nodded slowly, as if considering her words. Then he leaned in close, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Your son, Madame Ramota. I know what he's been up to." Ramota's defiant expression faltered, a flicker of fear crossing her face. What do you mean?" "I know about the gang," Bisola continued, his tone almost casual. "I know about the drugs, the debts. The authorities would be very interested in that information." Ramota's eyes widened in horror. "Bisola, please, he's just a boy. He's made mistakes, but he doesn't deserve—" Bisola held up a hand, cutting her off. "I'm not here to ruin your son's life, Madame Ramota, but I will if I have to. All I want is your loyalty. Swear it to me now, and your son's troubles disappear." Madame Ramota's resolve crumbled as she realized the position she was in. She had no choice. "You have my loyalty, Bisola. I swear it." Bisola smiled, the warmth of it never reaching his eyes. "Good, because I have no need for enemies, madam. Only allies." With that, the meeting was over. Madame Ramota, defeated and broken, left the market, knowing that she had lost not only the battle, but her future as a leader among the market women. Bisola had outmaneuvered her, using her greatest vulnerability against her. It was a lesson she would never forget. When Bisola reported his success to Iyanla, she listened in silence, her expression thoughtful. "You've learned quickly, Bisola," she said finally. "But remember this, power is not just about crushing your enemies. It's about knowing when to show mercy, when to let someone live so that they serve you. You did well with Ramota. She will be more useful to us now than she ever was before." Bisola nodded, understanding the deeper lesson Iyanla was imparting. "I'll remember, Iyanla, and I'll continue to prove myself worthy of the trust you've placed in me." As he left Iyanla's presence that night, Bisola knew that he had crossed another threshold. He was no longer just a protege. He was becoming a force in his own right, a man who could command loyalty and instill fear with equal ease. The streets of Alaye City were treacherous, but Bisola Eleniyan was proving that he was more than capable of navigating them. Episode 8: The Kingmaker of Muguland, The Power of Generosity. In the ruthless world of Alaye City politics, where loyalty was often bought and sold, Bisola Eleniyan distinguished himself not just through cunning and ruthlessness, but also through an unmatched genius for generosity. He understood that power wasn't solely maintained through fear and control. It was also nurtured through loyalty, born of gratitude and mutual respect. Bisola's brand of generosity was legendary, creating a network of devoted followers who saw him not just as a leader, but as a benefactor who genuinely cared for their well-being. It was the Eid al-Adha, the festival of sacrifice, one of the most significant holidays in Muguland. For weeks, Alaye City had been buzzing with preparations, and as the day approached, the market women, the area boys, and the political operatives who formed the backbone of Bisola's network waited in anticipation. They knew that Bisola was not one to forget his people, especially during such a significant time. On the eve of the festival, Bisola's men began to move through the city, delivering gifts that would become the talk of Alaye City. Each lieutenant received a package, a large sum of money, a sack of rice, and a cow. The cows, specially selected, were of the highest quality, a symbol of both sacrifice and abundance. But it wasn't just the value of the gifts that mattered, it was the way they were delivered. Each package came with a personal note from Bisola, written in his own hand, wishing the recipient and their family a blessed festival. The notes were short but heartfelt, reminding each person that they were more than just subordinates. They were part of a larger family. When the news spread that Bisola had personally ensured that each of his key supporters was well taken care of, the effect was electric. The market women, who had always been fiercely loyal to Iyanla, now saw Bisola as more than just her heir. He was a leader who cared for them, who remembered them even in times of joy. The area boys, who respected strength but also valued respect, found in Bisola a benefactor who did not look down on them, but treated them with the dignity they craved. As the festival unfolded, Alaye City was filled with the sounds of celebration. But in every corner of the city, from the crowded markets to the quiet alleys, one name was on everyone's lips: Bisola Eleniyan. His generosity had cemented his place not just as a man of power, but as a man of the people. Not all acts of generosity were grand public gestures. Some were quiet, personal moments that revealed the depth of Bisola's understanding of the power of gratitude. One such moment came when Bisola learned of a widow, Mama Risi Eleni, who had once been a close confidant of Iyanla, but had fallen on hard times after her husband's death. Mama Risi Eleni's market stall had been struggling, and without a male figure in her family, she had no one to advocate for her in the often brutal world of Alaye City commerce. When Bisola heard of her plight, he acted swiftly and discreetly. He sent one of his trusted aides to visit Mama Risi, delivering a small fortune in cash, enough to settle her debts, restock her stall, and secure her future. But that wasn't all. Bisola also arranged for her son to receive an apprenticeship with one of the city's most respected merchants, ensuring that the family would have a steady income and a chance to rebuild. When Mama Risi Eleni received the aid, she was overwhelmed with gratitude. She had expected to be forgotten, a casualty of the city's unforgiving nature. But Bisola's gesture showed her, and others, that he was a leader who did not forget those who had served his family, even when they could no longer serve him directly. Word of Bisola's act spread quietly but surely through the markets, reinforcing the idea that Bisola was a man who remembered his roots, a man who cared for the vulnerable as much as the powerful. Mama Risi Eleni's story became a symbol of hope for many in Alaye City, a reminder that in a city often devoid of compassion, there was still room for kindness. The final act that solidified Bisola's reputation for generosity came when he sponsored the education of a young, brilliant scholar from a poor background. The boy, Adisa Iwe, had shown exceptional talent in mathematics and engineering, but had no means to pursue higher education. When Bisola heard of Adisa's plight through one of his aides, he saw an opportunity to change the boy's life and to reinforce his own legacy as a patron of the future. Without hesitation, Bisola arranged for a full scholarship, covering not only Adisa Iwe's tuition, but also his living expenses and a generous stipend. But Bisola's involvement didn't stop there. He personally visited Adisa's family, assuring them that the boy's future was secure and that he would have every opportunity to succeed. "Your son," Bisola had said to Adisa's mother, "is not just a blessing to you but to all of us. He will make us proud, and I will make sure of it." Adisa's mother wept tears of joy, and the story of Bisola's sponsorship spread quickly through the city. It wasn't just the act of generosity that impressed people. It was the personal involvement. The way Bisola had taken the time to meet the family, to understand their struggles, and to offer not just financial support, but emotional reassurance. As Adisa Iwe excelled in his studies, his success became a testament to Bisola's vision and generosity. The boy's story was told and retold in the markets, in the streets, and in the corridors of power. Bisola had not just sponsored a student, he had invested in the future of Alaye City. And in doing so, he had secured the loyalty and admiration of countless families who saw in him a leader who truly cared. These acts of generosity, public and private, grand and humble, were not just gestures. They were strategic moves in Bisola's rise to power. By giving generously and personally, Bisola created a network of loyalty that was rooted not just in fear or obligation, but in genuine gratitude. His followers saw him as more than a benefactor. They saw him as a protector, a leader who remembered them in times of both hardship and celebration. As Bisola's influence grew, so did the stories of his generosity, each one reinforcing the legend of a man who knew that power was not just about control. It was about creating a bond with the people who supported him. In a city like Alaye City, where power was often maintained through intimidation, Bisola's approach was refreshingly different. He knew that while fear could command obedience, it was love and loyalty that would make people willing to fight, and even die, for him. One of the most dramatic examples of Bisola's strategic generosity came when he rescued a loyal supporter from ruin, an act that would solidify his reputation as a leader who never forgot his own. Okoro was an area boy who had risen through the ranks to become one of Bisola's most trusted enforcers. Fiercely loyal, Okoro had carried out numerous missions for Bisola, often at great personal risk. However, a botched operation led to Okoro being caught and imprisoned. The charges against him were severe, and the likelihood of his release seemed slim. Many in Alaye City whispered that Okoro was finished, that his loyalty to Bisola had cost him his freedom. But Bisola was not one to abandon those who had served him faithfully. He moved quickly and quietly, pulling strings within the police force, leveraging his political connections, and when necessary, offering substantial bribes to secure Okoro's release. It wasn't just about freeing Okoro. It was about sending a message to everyone in his network that Bisola stood by his people, no matter the cost. When Okoro was released from prison, he was a shadow of his former self, broken by the experience. But Bisola personally visited him, offering not just words of encouragement, but the resources to rebuild his life. He arranged for Okoro to start a legitimate business, providing him with the capital and support needed to get back on his feet. "Okoro," Bisola had said during one of their meetings, "you've always been loyal to me, and I'll never forget that. Alaye City is a hard place, but you don't have to fight alone. I've got your back, just like you've always had mine." The story of Okoro's redemption quickly spread through Alaye City. It became a symbol of Bisola's unwavering loyalty to those who were loyal to him. It was clear to everyone that in Bisola, they had not just a leader, but a protector, someone who would not abandon them even in their darkest hour. Bisola's most spectacular act of generosity came during one of Alaye City's annual festivals, known as the Festival of Light. The festival, which celebrated the city's rich cultural heritage, was a time of joy, unity, and remembrance. Traditionally, it was funded by the city government and local businesses, but in a year when economic hardships had hit Alaye City particularly hard, funding was scarce, and there were talks of canceling the festival. Bisola saw an opportunity to not only save the festival, but to elevate it to new heights. He personally financed the entire event, sparing no expense. The markets were filled with food and drink, all provided for free to the people of Alaye City. Streets were adorned with colorful lights, and musicians, dancers, and performers were hired to entertain the crowds. But it was the grand finale that truly left a lasting impression. As the final night of the festival approached, Bisola organized a massive fireworks display, the likes of which had never been seen in Alaye City. The sky was lit up with brilliant colors, each explosion accompanied by cheers and applause from the thousands of people who had gathered to watch. As the fireworks illuminated the night sky, Bisola stood on a stage, addressing the crowd with a voice that carried both authority and warmth. "This festival is for all of us," he said. "It's a reminder that no matter the challenges we face, we are one people, one city. Alaye City is our home, and as long as I am here, I will do everything in my power to ensure that we continue to thrive together." The festival ended with a standing ovation, and in the days that followed, stories of Bisola's generosity spread throughout the city. The people saw in him a leader who was not only capable of great power, but also of great kindness. He had given them something more valuable than money. He had given them hope and a sense of unity in a time of hardship. Bisola's genius in using generosity to build loyalty and power in Alaye City was unmatched. He understood that while fear could command, generosity could inspire. Through acts large and small, he created a web of loyalty that extended from the highest echelons of power to the most humble corners of the city. But this generosity was not without purpose. Every gift, every act of kindness, was a strategic move in a larger game. Bisola knew that true power came from the hearts of the people, and by winning their loyalty through generosity, he secured a foundation of support that would carry him through the challenges that lay ahead. As Bisola's reputation grew, so did his influence, and with Iyanla's continued guidance, he became not just a feared leader, but a beloved one. A man whose name was synonymous with power, loyalty, and the unwavering support of those who called Alaye City their home.
Born in the land of riches, gold, oil, diamond bright. But our streets are stained with blood, but the youth fight for their rights. Protesting for a future, yet they're slaughtered in the night. While the leaders sit in silence, flying private jets in flight. They drive their bulletproof cars while we walk these streets. Say there's no money, but their jets fly with ease. Our children starve, but they're too blind to see. Muguland, why can't we be free?